everybody. Hello everybody. We've got public question time at the start of the meeting, of course, but we haven't got anybody coming to do that, apart from Sian, who is kindly coming to talk to us about an item further down in the agenda, but we're just going to deal with the procedural matters first and then come to that. So are there any committee members who wish to make recordings? It's being recorded, obviously, as usual. If anybody else would like to. No, thank you. Right, so we're going to move we're going to suspend standing orders with your permission to bring item 46 up to this point in the agenda so that Sian can talk to this and then doesn't have to sit through the rest of the meeting. So all those in favour of suspending?
Can I just interject slightly? Could we put the item into after item 30 instead, so that we get through
sorry, you want to do the election of courts and members and things first?
Yes. We need to get past disclosable pecuniary interest.
My apologies.
Before we enter discussions where there might be a decision.
Okay, my apologies for that one. So, back to the agenda as it stands. So we're looking to elect co-opted members, and we have 3 people who were suggested.
Do we need to register apologies?
That's not yet.
That's not yet.
Ah, sorry.
We're on item 26,
Next.
which is the co-opted members, yeah? So, to proceed, an applicant must have their membership proposed and seconded by elected members and be subject to a vote. We can ask people to leave, co-opted members to leave the meeting if we so wish. However, anybody got? Are you happy to stay?
I'm happy to stay.
Didn't we make this last time?
We did listen to Julia last time.
Yeah.
We need to reapprove Kim, but she's not here this time, so we might have to leave that until next
And
time.
Julia's not here either.
And Julia's not here either, so
So,
there's nobody to do this time.
okay.
I don't think. Unless Charlie's putting herself forward.
Well, we've talked about this.
We're
haven't
still trying to figure out who's going to
But you're going to have a word with HBCAC about that. Okay. Okay. So, on to the next one then. Apologies and reasons for absence. So we've got 3 apologies, I think.
We've had apologies from Councillor Stewart, Councillor Green, and member Kimura circulated earlier with reasons. So you need to note their absence and do you accept their apology with their reasons for apology? Okay.
Thank you. The next is item 28. Any items to be discussed in private session? I don't think there are any, but does anybody else? Okay, thank you. Item 29, receipt of any updated written declarations of pecuniary and other interests. This is a point of information from you. I'm going to submit one because I have just joined the board of the Knitting and Crochet Guild. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Their collection and offices are in Slough. So although it's not within the valley, it is just possible that there might be occasion when there are requests to us for finance. Unlikely, but nevertheless better to say. So that will appear probably in the next meeting. Any items in the agenda that people need to alert us to where they've got interest? No? Okay. So now we are on.
Now we need to suspend
Yeah.
standing orders.
Can we have a vote please to suspend standing orders so that Sian can talk to item 46? Okay, thank Thank you very much indeed. Over to you, Sharon.
Right. So, let me just check a couple of things. So this was about the recycling, wasn't it, item 46? Yes, so we put in an application to Bright Green, the Community Trust, to basically update. I don't know whether you will all remember this, but HOT had a recycling booklet which contained all the different places you could drop off Tetra packs and all the other things. So lots of that is out of date. Rather than produce a new booklet in physical format, we really like to put something digital online. But obviously it means, first of all, doing a bit of background research, just getting all the information on where things can go. This is kind of coming from an extension. I don't know whether you've seen the foil recycling trial that we started in the Homefirth Co-op. So it's kind of an expansion from that and trying to get back to sharing this information with people publicly. So the kind of two places where we could work as partners on this, we don't have a website to put any information on. So it's something that potentially we might ask if you would like to put on the Parish Council website. But we've also mentioned in the bid that we're working with you and with your support in the area to promote this to people. Because obviously we need to get the word out and share the information as far and as wide as we can. So that application's gone through. But just to go back to where we started with the foil, our first collection, we collected 23 kilos of foil. Now I did work out how much, roughly as an estimate, carbon that would save. I didn't bring that with me, unfortunately, it's not in my head. So it's a lovely project where we can actually get some figures. Because a lot of the things that we do, we're not getting the data from. So the recycling project, we want to get it up and running, and we want to start reporting to people, this is how much carbon we can save by doing this. So that's where the project's going. So hopefully, if we get the funding, that will happen. If we don't get the funding, it will still happen. We'll find a way of making it possible. So does anybody have any questions about that or ideas to feed into that at all?
I guess the question for us is what would it commit us to, either financially or in other terms?
Okay, so financially nothing. The funding bid that we put in would cover my time to find all the information, put it in some format that can go online. If you are able to support getting online somewhere, somehow, that's great. If not, we'll find another way of doing it. But I know you're looking at redoing your website, and whether that's something that could sit with that.
If I may, for those of you that haven't been involved with the redesign of the website, we're on track to be relaunching in sort of early to mid-October. The current structure will be slightly different to what you're used to, and I'm looking at building in a kind of climate action section, which will be our work on it, but also possibly it can include local resources, so we can quite easily slot a page that advertises where you can do sort of specific recycling locally as part of that. So that's sort of where we, the conversation that we'd had about it, so it's to sort of ask the committee's permission to run that very small section of the website as almost a dual thing. I will still maintain control, I'll have the editing rights on it, but Sharon will send me the information for what I do.
And like I say, it doesn't have to be a commitment. If it's not something that fits with what you're planning, we'll find somewhere to put it. It's just that we don't have our own website, so it's a case of trying to find a partner kind of thing.
It just seems obvious to me that we should support this. It's so in line with our priorities and what we want to achieve as a council. I don't see any objection.
Shall we put that to a vote then?
You could put that, but you need a motion in a second.
So, Jenny, you're proposing, somebody to second? Yeah, Alison, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much.
And the second part, I think, Sean, was around supporting with promoting, so that would be, again, on the website, but also through social media channels.
Yeah, any sharing again. I mean, we do that anyway, where we see things pop up, don't we? So, once it's up and running, assuming that it's happening, and get the funding from somewhere, any sharing of that is always much appreciated. To get the word out further.
Can I also say that, you know, because you're going to be working, EPICs are going to be in Gartside building soon, to have that as a possible drop-off point for some recycling that doesn't take up masses of space.
Yeah, that would be fab. I've just spoken to the co-op as well, because they've got the foil bin.
Yes.
There's still a little bit of space for a small collection in the co-op. And yeah, anywhere else that would happily take something. It's fine, yeah, like you say, it's difficult finding places where people can easily drop things off as well.
Or here? Question? Civic?
I don't know.
I mean, I just feel this is something we should really be implementing.
That would be a Dawn question rather than a
Okay.
question, but yeah, I think it might be.
It was a question from the Business Association about whether the parish council can help in terms of their recycling needs, individual businesses. Maybe it's something that the Climate Action
Yes. Yeah.
working group can have a look at, is what opportunities there are, how we can help
Because
further.
to simplify it, the booklet that you produced in the past, there were so many different places you had to go to. So to make that so that it can be taken to fewer sites,
Yeah.
either the co-op or here or the Gartside building.
Yeah,
To
I'm
me-
really hoping the co-op can support a couple more things if we can bring
Yes.
some more things. Because obviously if you take all of your recycling to the co-op, then you do your shopping. You're
Yes.
kind of doing two photo points going on. You're
Yes.
just doing one trip.
So it's a positive for the co-op as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're quite supportive. It's just about the space really, and they want us, so we have to keep taking that foil away because they obviously don't want that gathering in the corner.
Okay, thank you very much. Was there, do we need to have a formal motion to say that we want the working group, or is that just to note?
You can put it on as an action for the working group.
Right,
rather than a
action for the
motion.
working group then. Anything else?
No, that's it on that. I don't know whether you have a moment for me to just plug a couple of events that we're doing. Yeah. So one of which is very kindly funded by the parish council. So the food festival. We're now only doing this Saturday, but we will be there. We'll be doing a bit of a plot to plate presentation, some activities with kids planting seeds. But we've also got a chef. She's going to prep up some amazing veggie food, tasty veggie food, and just trying to inspire people. We'll be asking, can you just switch one more meal a week to vegetarian? Is there something that can be more sustainable in your diet choices and things like that? So we're talking about health and sustainable food. So that's on the 14th of September, really quickly. We've also got, we're repeating our home energy event. We've expanded this to, we've got some advice for community buildings that's coming from third sector leaders and Green Doctor. So Green Doctor are there talking about funded assessments for community buildings that they're offering. So we're talking to homeowners, businesses and community groups, basically, on how to save energy, how to invest in energy efficiency. So that's on the 2nd of October. We're there with very basic advice as well. We're sending these out to food banks, talking about how you can cut your bills this winter. So we've got a lady there who's an expert in fuel poverty to talk about how to save on your bills. So we're trying to kind of cover a little bit more this time around. But yeah, so those are my 2 plugs. Sorry, a bit cheeky.
No, that's fine, thank you very much indeed. I assume that HV Cap is in communication with the Civic about the building and any advice and support, or
Not sure. I'll have to check on that.
Might-
because I know there was
might be
one
worth
a
having
while
a-
ago, but-
in relation to what you've just been talking about. Anyway,
Yeah, hopefully they will have received our invitation
Okay.
to come along.
Yeah.
So yeah.
lovely. Thanks very much indeed.
Okay, that's great.
Even to lovers and neighbours now.
I will love you. I've got 2 teenagers I've left from massive pictures.
Yeah, well, thank you very much
Thank
indeed for
you.
your
It's
time,
always
Sharon. Okay, so we now return to the agenda, and we're looking at the minutes of the previous meeting. Assistant Clerk.
Okay, so this is just the minutes to note, they've already been approved for the June. Everybody happy to note those?
Yes, thank you.
And the only other resolution that's not already included as part of this agenda was around 7 roofs. I think the resolution last time was that it would be explored by service provision, but I don't think I've seen any updates on that. I don't know if anybody has.
No, I don't think we are. There was
Okay.
a conversation, but there's nothing.
Okay, so that still a pending thing, or
Yeah.
right? I'll make a note to carry it forward and check next time. Okay, so that was it for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So moving on to item 32, which is the review of the Home Valley Parish Council committee structure and meeting cycle. You will recall that there was a working group set up from full council to have a look at the ways in which this might be achieved or what we might do. I've had a brief conversation, well, text conversation with Chris Green, who was leading that work. He's leading that work. We've gathered together a number of proposals or a number of suggestions, shall we say, but what Chris has said is, in terms of case, are people wanting to stay as we are, become a subgroup, or disband altogether, with the communications things being an item on full council meetings? These are not the only options, of course, but he was sort of throwing out and saying, have case members got things that they would like to say at this point? The suggestion being that when those are gathered in, either now, or people can submit those later, the working group can put together all suggestions for a paper to go to full council with recommendations. We've got one or two already, so one of which is to review the remit of case and whether that actually makes sense, given that we've already said the climate action part of our work really ought to be embedded in everything that we do. So, question, is there any need to have a climate action element to the parish council as a separate committee? And does that mean then that you just have a communications and engagement element? Question, you know? So there are all sorts of issues. Another one being, and we've talked about this, does the cycle of meetings facilitate the things that we want to be able to do? My view, for what it's worth, is as things stand, having 4 case meetings with its remit at the moment, with this huge gap for quite, legitimate reasons, because of all the other things that go on, it means you're spending months before you can actually get things done. So the question is, how do you change it to make that better? I guess. And I know planning have been discussing this, haven't they, Mary? Do you want to say anything at this point, or not?
Well, at the moment we've come up with a kind of interim solution really, which I hope would be a point on the journey towards a completely different way of doing things. But the solution that we've put forward would give more time in planning meetings to discuss things other than planning applications, but it wouldn't reduce the number of meetings required for planning. But that's still to go back to the full planning committee for discussion and session.
So the question is there anything anybody would like to say at this point in time? Or are you content perhaps to go away and have a think about this, but with a, what's the word, ask, anything that you'd like to put forward in terms of the restructuring changes that you think need to happen? Alison?
So I replied to Chris's email saying that I thought that the suggestions, as far as I went, were quite reasonable. And then I can give you an example of something where it would be sensible not to have climate action.
Please do.
So we were talking about biodiversity policy and about having a rule with allotments that they don't use chemical sprays on allotments that we supervise. And that, the allotment thing is actually in finance and management, and I've asked if it can be put into service provision. But the actual reason for doing that is a climate action thing, you know, to actually say our allotments will be organic. So I think that's quite a good example of just how sort of you can shuffle things around.
Yeah, thank you. Jenny?
First, I don't think I've had anything from Councillor Green. You know, has this been gone out to
No,
everyone?
no, there hasn't been anything circulated yet, except to the working group.
Oh, right.
Yes, sorry, I
Sorry,
should have explained that.
sorry, yeah.
Sorry.
So no,
He sent out a sort of a preliminary, what do you think of it?
It's quite reasonable, I've not seen that, I just thought maybe I'd missed
No,
it.
no.
Right, so first, I definitely agree that I think just 4 meetings of case isn't enough, because when you look at the agenda, I don't think we're going to give due consideration to so many things, and so much time elapses between, so I definitely think there should be more meetings that are short, you know, that have a shorter agenda, so that things can be more thoroughly discussed. That's one thing. Was there something else when you were talking then? And it's gone out my head now.
Can I just say something then in response to that? So what it sounds to me like what you're suggesting, you would rather have the full case committee having more discussion and making decisions rather than the devolvement of
That's the
decision
other thing I
making.
was wanting to say. Because I do think, although I absolutely do want the green issues to be embedded in every decision that's made at full council, I do think if you've not got a committee checking that that's happening and overseeing that that's happening, I think it might slide a bit, and I don't want it to slide. So for that reason, you can split them, you know, into communications and climate action, but don't not have one body that's responsible for maintaining and ensuring that environmental issues are.
Mary?
I mean, I think there's so much on the agenda, it's becoming digestible, isn't it? And we really don't go to, and I just want to reinforce what Jenny's just said, because this seems to me to parallel with equal opportunities, you know, we used to go around and say, oh, equal opportunities underpins everything that you do, but we do need part of the structure, overseeing what's going on in terms of climate change.
So, I mean, I'd like that really minuted, that we must ensure that there is monitoring of climate action in no matter how the structure is altered. Alison?
Well, one of the things that Chris suggested was that there would be a subgroup that was doing that, but they wouldn't have as many powers as being a committee, but there would be a body of people looking at it. That was one of the suggestions. So they could sort of pass on to any committee.
Yeah, thank you. Donna?
Yeah, I sort of agree. I mean, this agenda is rather large, and it's a lot for us to get through by 9 o'clock. So I do think, it probably does want to be more meetings rather than it being just all plugged into one and trying to get through it. The only other thing I have a thing with, does it have to be Mondays? Mondays are my worst time.
Well, we can discuss that
Maybe
in the
look
fullness
at
of time.
Should probably should change.
Maybe look
The
at
same as council meetings.
well,
Same night.
well,
Anyway.
Wednesdays and so I go bad night, but you know, is there any reason why it has to be?
If it, I don't know whether it's in our standing or not, Rich might be able to say, because some groups, I think it is just tradition, but subgroups subcommittees are much more flexible anyway.
Yeah.
So if it were a subcommittee, you could meet on your own agendas, you could meet as frequently, you know, it doesn't need to be set.
You mean subcommittees as in case, not working groups?
Yeah, so there's
So case doesn't have to meet on Monday.
Case is a committee.
So what do you
A
what do you
working
mean by
group and a
subgroup?
subcommittee is somewhere in between the two.
So what do you mean by subgroup?
Subcommittee.
Subcommittee.
It's somewhere between a committee and a working group. It's an
Is this a subcommittee?
No.
This is a
It's a
committee.
standing committee, yeah.
So we don't have any subcommittees at the moment?
No, we don't have any.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay. Thank you.
We're moving into YouTube territory.
then presumably a subcommittee would have to be more formally constituted than a working group.
Exactly that.
Okay.
But
So
not
some
as a
committees.
formal, as a committee.
So that would be an option.
Yeah.
Right, okay, well, duly noted then, thank you very much indeed. But as I said at the beginning of this discussion, if you've got anything that you feel on reflection or reconsideration particularly strongly about, please call, quite strongly about, or just, maybe, then please do let Chris is leading this work, so please let him know. Copy me in as well, if you would. Thank you very much
Can I just
indeed.
say something? Sorry, I
Yeah,
said
sure.
this before, but I think you do have to be aware of the workload on the clerk and the assistant clerk.
That is one of the,
I mean, it's
that
all
is
very well saying
absolutely
we need
one of the
more
key
meetings, but
points,
This
Liz.
is why you put case
yeah,
together.
thank you.
Because with too
That's
many
already
meetings-
under
Oh, okay.
consideration. Yeah, thank you very much. Important. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Thank you very much. So, on we go. 33, Climate Action Communication Engagement Action Plan, Assistant Clerk's Reports.
Right, that's me, isn't it? You've all had the action plan in with your pack. Really, this is a chance to, if any of you have got any amends that you want to put in for now, I've put in progress points against all of the ones where we changed it and updated all of those. Councillor Morgan, you'll be pleased to know that I finally remembered to take the thing about rewilding out. So when it's no longer on there. And everything else is pretty much up to date, so hopefully you've had a chance to flick through those. Most of it will be covered where we've got progress on in other items, so I won't go into anything specifically unless anybody's got anything they want to pick up.
No, I'd just like to have it noted, please, that thank you very much indeed for your work on this, because the actual monitoring against progress, I think, is really important. You know, that we do keep track of what we're trying to do. Because you don't want things to slide that you've decided are important, do you? And as several people have said, when you get agendas this size, it can be really tricky to keep on track. So thank you very much indeed, Gemma, for that. Climate Action Working Group, feedback on ongoing work. Is there anybody here from that group who wants to say anything?
I can tell a little bit about glyphosate, if you want.
Is there an item on that?
I think that's further in the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's further on, but
I think a lot of the things that are currently ongoing with the working groups are also covered in the agenda further on.
Yeah.
So this is just if he's got anything that's not otherwise covered.
Is there something about the feasibility study for Barton Ride elsewhere? I don't remember.
No,
Saying that.
I think there is an item from the public transport working group that mentions it, but I don't think it's as yet been any progress.
Because Councillor Lawrence was going to do some work on that, but I don't know what progress there has been. But anyway, so all the other items are elsewhere in the agenda. So we move on then to the Public Transport Working Group. And is there, who's here from the working group?
I am, but if Lawrence has put in a description.
He has, that's right, yes, thank you.
And then he said, I mentioned about a Pennine trade partnership, which nothing's happened really, but I just wondered, Gemma, whether have they approached you to be in the November event?
No, they haven't actually. I have not heard from them, but I have done a chase up. We have given them till Friday.
Yeah, that's the only bit we said
Yeah.
to get involved with that.
I'll double check on that because I would have expected to have heard from them.
Okay. Anything else?
Just on that, yes, I'm on that working group too, but just on the provision of public transport information, Metro has restarted issuing paper timetables, which it didn't for a while, so I mean at the very least we could get hold of handfuls, we could we could order timetables for all buses that sit in this area, that would be a relatively easy thing and simple thing to do, and then FX could presumably keep them in its, in its lair, so yes.
And that promotional thing was the kind of one thing that we felt the parish council could do.
Yes.
Not particularly that, but just when it turned back, but, you know, to work with stops, but nothing's happened at the moment. But, yeah, to promote the routes, to have diagrams of the routes and things like that.
So is that,
to do diagrams of the routes and the failed
is that something that that working group is working on?
I don't think they are at the moment. I think we're waiting for Lawrence, really.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, he notes on the ethics thing, he notes that it might be more practicable to use the metro notice boards that are actually there at the bus station,
Yes.
which I walked by the other day, and there's nothing in them.
No, it's absolutely empty, isn't
Yeah,
it?
all you get is train times, bus times within the shelters.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I did ask if we could use it for something else, given that it was empty, and they said no.
Well, put your own damn information up there.
Because we don't want to be
I wondered if we could do more to stimulate people to use the buses, because I think that's something you can't expect from the bus companies. But as people who are, we're meant to be representing people, I think we need to do a bit more to stimulate people using buses. For instance, all of us using buses and talking about what that means to us. But that's just one idea. But as a group of people, we could be doing it more, and you know, and saying this is how we've done it, this is what we found difficult, or this is what we, you know, surprisingly easy. And I wonder if we could have something like, I don't know, some sort of challenge to people to use more buses. And yeah, sorry, talking too much.
Can I jump in on that? Because I have been running a bus challenge social media campaign.
Oh right, good.
The one that we started back at the Arts Festival, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that I've been running it every now and again on social media. What would
The piece of paper that said,
yeah, but I've done it as a social media post as
Yeah.
well, so I've been
Yeah.
doing it fairly regularly on Facebook.
Yeah.
Usually when I've got a quiet week, I stick it in. But what would be nice for the website would be a blog about from one of you about using the bus, about why you use the bus.
Ain't
about-
gonna be me. Never use a bus, I can't.
I can try to do that, but I don't like blogs. Sorry, I don't like computers and things. So
You can
you
write
know,
us
I
a text
do.
and an email and I will
Yeah,
turn it into
good,
something
yeah,
more fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's such a good idea, you know, what you've just described, but, you know, doing it as a blog, it's one of the things that's actually in the communication strategy suggestions, is that we actually try and do more of that sort of thing, you know, take 10 minutes to just write about something that you've done, and get it out there. Yeah.
And do it, that's the other thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, not make believe. Okay, anything more on the climate action working group? I mean, sorry, the public transport working group. Okay, thank you. Ongoing projects then. Number 37 is installation of solar panels.
Applications fully submitted, we had to pay for some designs, unfortunately, but that I don't have the technical ability to design, so that's what we did. We are expecting a decision at the end of this month. Fingers
Fingers
crossed.
crossed. Thank you very much indeed. Number 38, sustainable transport. Summer roadshow. Over to you, Anna.
There you go. So since we last met, which was at the beginning of June, we've had the Arts Festival weekend where some of you joined us and there were some other councillors as well for promoting sustainable travel. We also had the Honey Show where we had a little stand. I don't know if anybody else wants to share their experiences of how that went, that came along.
Well, can I say?
Yeah.
I thought I was there for the Arts Festival. I stopped everybody that went past me, and none of them were coming to the Arts Festival. None of them were local, and it wasn't relevant to any of them. And I just thought that was interesting. A bit sad. The whole show was a bit more successful, and people were engaged actually occasionally in the idea of catching the bus.
We did have a bit of a shocker with the weather at the Arts Festival, it has to be said, so that rather worked against us. I think the Sunday we had a better day than the Saturday. We did get chatting to quite a few people. I think you were stood outside on the Sunday and you got chatting to quite a few people, wasn't you?
Yeah.
I think that side of it worked well. We will be going to the Food and Drink Festival this coming weekend. You're right, the Honey Show was great, just purely for the networking within that tent was fantastic to speak to lots of people. Food and Drink Festival is this coming weekend. It's going to be a slightly different show because it's on now in the Darkside unit, so we can't use that at our base, but we're kind of joining up with them and supporting them to launch that as the active travel hub for the area. Thank you very much for those of you who have given me some time. I will get back to you with a time slot at some point in the next couple of days. It's been a bit manic since I got back from holiday, but we should be, I think we might get wet again, but the Food and Drink Festival is at the bus station, so we will have ready-made audience straight away, which should hopefully be better.
Thank you. Any questions? No? On we go then. And number 39, the big community celebration. Do you want to say something else? Well,
okay.
I'll kick on. So our next, the working group is planning ahead. You know, we've got lots of actions already in place. So we've hired the Civic. We've done the Save the Date cards. We've had stuff out on social media. We're drawing together all the feedback, people who want to get involved in being here on the 9th of November in one way or another. Our next meeting is on the 18th, I think, and
Yeah, I need to give me apologies.
I think the plan there is to have a look at what we've had back in terms of people who want to get involved and divvy them up into areas like music or health or whatever, so that the load in terms of communication is spread and it can't all be on Gemma's shoulders by any means. And the next big thing I guess we have to look at is publicity material and the real public engagement stuff beyond the folks who are going to come and have a stand or a stall or whatever. So, anybody else? Shelley, do you want to say anything? Or?
A couple of things. First, the public engagement. We're going to have a stall, so I think we should all be thinking about how the parish council is going to promote itself. The thing that I think perhaps everybody, well, when I was looking at this today, I thought probably everybody hasn't seen the invitation that went out. It went out to nearly 100 different groups, but we could easily have missed some. So that's what I'm concerned about. So in fact, can I pass these to people so people know? I'm not to share because I've not got many of them. And I thought we probably should have put this on the in the papers, but we didn't, you know. So I don't know. I just did it full on mine. They're only just printed up on mine. But this is just to let you know if you want to invite people specifically, or you think, or you hear of somebody, that has. There's been, I've had a couple of phone calls of saying, you know, we've not been invited, you know, so it was, well, you know, so I just thought people should be aware that we can still invite people and people are still welcome. That's all I'm saying.
Would your suggestion be that we publish to the council a
Yes.
list of who's invited and say, have we
I think
missed
that's-
anybody?
That's already gone out,
Hasn't
no, that's gone out before the invitation went out. But I think most of the parish councillors won't have seen the invitations or the reply slips, you know, so they might be prompted to.
But we've seen the list of who's been invited.
That went out. You did, didn't it?
Yeah, so the people we invited were largely groups that we had some sort of link to,
Yes, yes.
mostly through the grants programme, but also, and then in addition it was as many community music, sports, religious, and there was another category as well.
It was just all the general ones like epics.
Yeah. I think we're up to kind of low 20s roughly with
Responding out to 100.
Yeah, it was just over 100, I think. But what we could potentially do is if we feel like that we'd like a lot more than that, and we haven't quite figured out exactly how many we can fit in 2 rooms, so that needs to be but we can open it out onto, you know, once we've got through our Friday deadline,
Yeah.
of groups that we know, and we've offered it to groups that we know first, what we can then do is open it out on social media and say, right, here's your group, you know, and do it that way.
I don't think anyone from all the shows had anything. I've certainly never seen this before.
Well, it's,
We're quite big and I'm quite involved with the
Yeah,
committee.
you are. I'm sure it's on the list, but I will forward it to you.
And I think we probably would come because it's a good way for us recruiting volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
The main aim, I will,
That's
I
the
will
key aim.
add you on.
So put me down as a maybe.
Okay.
And you managed to recruit me without an invitation, which you said it would.
I mean, I think
One of the other things that I think we need to consider is who we want to invite to come along that holds a position in the community, so to speak. So people like councillors, I mean Kirklees councillors, or people from other parish councils, or those are just two off the top of my head. So if you've got any thoughts about that, dignitaries for want of a better, it's not a good word, but you know what I mean. People who hold some sort of official position that it might be useful for them to come and see what we're doing. I mean, and maybe we put something out to YCLA and say, would you like to come and have a look at what our parish council is doing in terms of one strategy for community engagement.
Jane will have a list of local dignitaries that would be appropriate to invite.
Anything else on that one? Okay, thank you very much.
There is something that we do need to cover off on that one,
Sorry?
around budget, because we haven't defined a budget for it as yet.
Oh yes, sorry.
So I'd like to just borrow 2 seconds, if that's okay, on budget. So the reason that we haven't defined a budget on this yet is because last time we recommended to do it, then it was approved at full council, so actually this has been our first opportunity to give it a budget. We have got change from the website and brand work, and certainly from the summer festivals I've underspent quite significantly on the budget that we outlined for that. So you do have some money to play with before you sort of worry about that as to where it's come from. Particularly the summer festivals, we outlined 5,000 at the beginning of the year. I think I've spent less than 1, Rich would be able to tell me. But mostly on printing and publicity and a banner and things like that, but it was, you know, I think I've comfortably come in well under that. So you have got money to play with. Councillor Whitelaw has done some totting up on what you think it might come in at.
I did a bit of sleuthing. So the civic hire is, for the hire of the 2 rooms, is coming in at about 600 quid. But then we would need some publicity materials, banners, posters, whatever. And I'm talking to Gemma about this. I found a PVC-free eco banner people to produce them for about 60 quid. But you never know what might pop up. So although we probably, on those calculations, don't need more than about 1,500 quid, I think we should put it up to about 2.5 really, to make sure that we've got some slack in the system. Contingencies, good word. Yes. Does that sound about
That's
right
fine,
to you?
you know me, if I don't need to spend it, I won't spend it.
Absolutely. So do we need to take a vote on that?
You do, just an outline budget from your budget line for communications and engagement.
So the proposal is for £2,500. I will propose that. Seconder, Martin, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much.
Thank you. What happens if we overspend? Are we not allowed to overspend?
It's come back and ask for more money.
Have to go to another meeting, which will be after the events.
It would be, there is some discretion between the chair and the clerks as to, for up to 1,000, but
What
We
we do,
prefer
what we
to
do
run it
know is
all
that
through.
we're not going to spend anything on catering because the civic is going to run the catering facilities, which would be the big, not sure about thing.
Yeah, I know that Gemma told me that there was some of the musician was asked if they'd be, paid to perform. I don't know whether we would say, no, it's a voluntary, or whether we want to have some contingency for that. I don't know.
My response to that, for what it's worth, was this is an opportunity for organisations to showcase themselves. It's not a paid performance activity.
Yeah.
So whilst I understand, that when you're doing
Yeah,
performance,
I agree,
etc.,
but I just
but
didn't know whether.
not on this occasion.
I knew that we hadn't discussed that in the working group, so I thought it needed to be raised.
Thank you. Anything else on the big event? Okay, thank you. So, the next thing is the website and rebrand, and over to you again, Gemma.
So following selection, the working group was delegated to select the companies that we would go forward, suppliers we would go forward with. We are working with Zonky as our website supplier. They've got started. They have just sent me a structure to approve, so that's my job for this week, is to go through the structure. And then they will start to migrate our content, and then I will need to rewrite some of it because it might not make sense in its current form, and also some of it is a very stuffy and formal, and I want to change the working on it. We have also selected Redback, the design agency. They're a local agency. They've done lots of the work locally for lots of local businesses, and they've also done the Home First branding that you will have seen outside. They are at the stage where they are putting together some mood boards for us as to try and get to a direction that we want to go in, and then they will start to design the work that we've asked them to do. So those of you that are part of the communications and engagement working group, you will hear from me again when I get things back from them about kind of deciding on which way we go. I'm hoping that we can have enough time to get the buy-in from full council. It might be in survey terms via input. I don't think we're not going to be able to have time to get it into a meeting at full council, but we can at least get some feedback from the wider council as well without turning ourselves into too many cooks, because that can. And I know that there are definitely some quite strong feelings in all camps. So it's going to be an interesting one, balancing that want to look modern and dynamic versus the sort of heritage side of things as well, and those two things are both really important to lots of people. So it's going to be a delicate thing, and we just need to be mindful that everybody feels a little different about all of it. So that's where we are. Those of you that have contributed so far, thank you so much for the help. It's there's still quite a big job to do with it, I think, but we will, I think, get that before the event on the 9th.
Before the event of that would be brilliant. It would be absolutely great.
The website will be live by then.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah.
The website will definitely be
A
live.
real presence launch, I think, would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The website will not be as I want it to be by then, but it will be live. I think it's going to be a longer term overhauling sections at a time, but I'll do as much as I can before then.
And you've already got all that. You've had feedback from most people on the council, haven't you, as to what their preferences are?
I would say about half have
But
engaged with it.
everybody's
Everybody's
engaged with it.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to please everybody.
It is,
I think the fact
absolutely.
that everybody's had their say, and you're bringing those views into it
Yeah.
is what's important.
I think that's the point well made, Jenny, and that will continue to be the case, because whatever we come up with is not going to please everybody. It
It's
can't.
impossible.
And so much of it, in my opinion, is very subjective when it comes to aesthetics. and design style. It's not just about whether it reflects heritage or modernness or whatever. It's a very, very personal thing. And what we will come up with is a best fit. So be it. But I think what we need to be mindful of is this has got to last us for, what, 10 years probably? We don't want to be doing this again in very soon. So, you know, it's getting it the best it can be in the circumstances. Julie, did you want to say something?
I just wondered, what have people fed back on, whether the divisions become apparent kind of thing, is that?
I put out a survey when we first started exploring this that was around, I sort of gathered together a lot of different styles of logo and colour schemes and things like that, and kind of got people to choose their favourites and talk about what they liked about them, what they didn't like about them, what was good. Some people are really quite interested in the heritage, heraldic side of things. They like the crest, they like the civic pride side. Other people like something that was very simple and very sort of clean looking. And if we can sort of land somewhere in there, then we're onto a winner.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of that. So I suppose from what...
We haven't got to the point where we're having a look at any proposals. These were just what sort of styles were being
It's just one of those things,
first instance.
bearing in mind what I've kind of co-opted onto the committee before, I'm sort of like, oh, okay, I would have thought I might have seen it. Doesn't matter, I don't mind, I've not got an extra
But that was literally just the first stage for the councillors to say what it was that they wanted in terms of representing Home Valley Parish Council, rather than necessarily what might hit with the populace at large. So it was a first stage thing.
No, I didn't know, I wasn't aware that anything had been done, so...
Sorry, Julie.
This is quite a long time ago now.
It is quite a while ago. Once I get the mood boards back, I'm knocking on your door.
Okay, fine, okay. Yeah, I don't mind, I just didn't know. So.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. So, on to the biodiversity policy. Working group to report. Who would like to say something? Alison?
Well, we,
Anybody? Where are we up to?
we just sort of polished up the biodiversity policy that Kevin sort of drafted out. And I suppose the major change to it was that we feel we don't own much land, and we don't, some of the things don't apply so directly. So one of the wording things we did was that we should support biodiversity policy and other people's actions by the money that we give. Actually, that was one of the major things. And then we looked to see if there's anything that we could have a role in. It's what I mentioned earlier, which is that we have the allotments at home, and that there isn't any policy about spraying or not spraying or anything. So I think that's something that we could definitely do. Which is why I asked Rich where is the allotment bit, because I've never seen anything about the allotment management, and it's in finance and management, which is a bit weird. So I said, can I pop it into service provision, and then we could talk about it then, which I think is what will happen. But I also spoke to, apropos of the LifeSafe thing, I actually spoke to Councillor Munir Ahmed, who's got the portfolio now for green spaces and whatnot. And he was really helpful, and I said, I'm actually asking you about one thing, about glyphosate spray in general, but what do you think about allotments as well? And he went, oh, you're right. So he's on the case, he's having a look at it for Kurt Reeves.
Well, that's good to know.
It was really good, actually. I felt very buoyed up on it, because my first reaction was with a previous
Collaborative working.
Pardon?
Collaborative working.
Well, it was really good. So that's a biodiversity bit that we feel we can put our money where our mouth is by saying the allotments in our zone are pesticide free.
So are you, is the working group proposing that you add a clause into the biodiversity policy that is about that, and do we Do you
Well,
want
I
us
think
to?
it will be in service provision next week,
Right,
but then I think it has to go to full council to be
Yeah.
approved, so we can moot it.
Because it will have to change the tenancy agreements of the allotment holders, you see, so it's,
so can we, as case, make a recommendation that service provision
yeah.
take a look at the addition of?
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose it needs to go to both finance and service provision.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, finance will have something missing, won't they?
yeah, yeah.
They pop it into the other committee.
So I suppose finance first, obviously, because they've got, if the recommendation comes from here to finance to consider moving it to service provision, I think that's reasonable.
right,
Yeah, I asked Jen, and Jen's put it on the agenda for the service provision, so I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure.
but if we decide here that that's what we would like to recommend,
Yes.
that the clause goes in
Yeah,
and is dealt with
Yes.
through finance and service
Yeah.
provision.
that'll work.
So I would propose that. Would somebody like to second that? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay.
Were you going to say something?
What that item was to recommend on the revised policy.
Yeah.
You can't have trying to disband. Got another agenda.
But we still want a monetary body for the plan.
Yes.
Anything else on?
There's another resolution.
You need another one?
You need the one so that item was not about allotment. It was about
That was about a clause.
a revised biodiversity policy.
Yeah.
And that was
That's
the only
what it
action,
is.
that was the only action that came out of it.
But if you want to recommend the revised version to
We haven't
full
got the
council,
revised version
it's in
yet.
the papers.
No, with a clause added.
That's the allotments. We've got
But
We've got
that's
sidetracked. So are you looking to revise the biodiversity
No, I
policy
didn't
again?
think so.
You're not?
No, I think we've finished now.
We've done
I
it.
think we've finished
I
now.
thought you wanted the addition of a
No,
clause.
that's
No,
that's going to in the least for the allotments.
Okay.
We've covered it in general terms in the policy, but the actual.
Mm.
If you have revised it, won't that
We
have
have
to go to
revised
council?
it.
Yes, it will.
Yeah,
So you need to recommend.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
if it has been revised, it'll have to go to council.
Can I move that we adopt the revised version of the policy? Thanks.
Somebody seconding?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favour? Sorry, that's my misunderstanding. I thought you wanted a clause adding into the biodiversity policy. Who knows? Jenny?
Can I just say about the biodiversity policy, that we did add it to the grants priority policy as well?
Yes.
The recommendations for giving grants now includes a priority for
For biodiversity.
biodiversity.
Okay,
It's in there as well.
thank you very much. So, on we go. Valley COVID Memorial. Over to you, Mary, I think.
Right, so this is a working group. Members, councillors Joe Lyles and Trish Stewart, as well as me, and former councillor Jason Brooke. I don't have a great deal to add to the document that's in front of you. I'll just highlight a couple of things. We have, I think, more or less decided on the wording for the plaques. And in both cases, we're keeping it very short. We don't really want to go to consultation to the entire council because I think that would be difficult. But the Friends of Honley, the first one obviously is Friends of Honley Library, and they are happy with the suggested wording, which is simply to say that this memorial garden commemorates the many volunteers who came forward to help the people of Honley during the time of COVID, and then Colne Valley Parish Council, and then it will be December 2024. So it is very. We didn't really want to elaborate because we're not just thinking about the mutual aid groups, but there was a lot of sort of independent initiatives. So and that will be. There will be an opening, and the date of that is fixed, and we've now fixed the time. So that's going to be on Saturday the 7th of December at 10 o'clock. And I understand on that day there's quite a lot going on in Homley, that it's a special day, because it's a pre-Christmas thing. So that's fixed point. So there will be invitations going to all parish councillors. So we are slowly plodding forward, I would say. We've decided on the bench. We would have liked to have bought a lovely hardwood bench, but unfortunately our budget doesn't run to that. So we are suggesting a bench, this is for Homley, with sort of cast aluminium ends, and then with the slats made of recycled one. I think it's mostly sawdust. So that would be very, very hard. It would be very hard working as the public bench in a place that's slightly damp. So we at the moment we're trying to keep within budget, and at the moment we've got about £2,200 remaining, but we've still got to pay. We need the quotation for the laying down of flags in Homley. So the plan is to put a path which would be wide enough for a wheelchair from the existing path on the Thurston Road side of the library, and then a circle of flags. So we're getting there. The apple trees, unfortunately, will not be planted until the spring, because I've checked with the Northern Fruit Group experts, Hilary Dodson, and she has reaffirmed that mid-February to mid-March is the ideal time to plant fruit trees. So that's when they will be planted. That's about it.
Sounds good to me. Thank you very much indeed.
So I'm making a request, which is that this committee authorises the working group to continue doing the work on the plans as outlined, but also that you know that the time and date of the opening ceremony. Thank you. Don't need to vote on that, do we? That's just to note, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Alison, do you want to say any more about the request to Kirklees?
Yeah, well, I've been keeping tabs on when they're going to have their council meeting, climate action, because they're going to accept the draft, what's it called now? Environmental Strategy Everyday Life is going to be endorsed on the 18th of September. So I spoke to Rob Green and said, could you include, there is nothing in your draft about not spraying. There's nothing in there. And he said, I know. And he's a bit embarrassed. So he is looking to actually introduce that. And he said that the other way that you can do that is to speak to Nia Ahmed, who's the portfolio
We were just talking about.
who was also very, very positive and said, yes, we need to have a look at this before this draft document goes in. So he was hoping that they might actually engage a bit, and I was playing an emoji card about that, you know, there's 100 councils now have signed up for this in Britain, 50 on it, 100 are on the way to it, you know, because they have contracts that have to, you know, run their course and things like that. So I'm really hoping that they will include it.
Watch this space then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for pursuing this.
And the other thing I did point out to Nia was that they recommend that you use glyphosate to clear your plot when you take on an allotment. Right? And then lower down in the brief it says, I quote, no spraying of herbicides or pesticides which contain chemicals should be done. And I said, I think that is a bit of a mixed message.
I think you might be right.
I think Kirklees has policy on this, it's good on like that.
They've got a really nice PDF that you can download when you're taking on allotment. It's got very beautiful photographs of roses, spotless cabbages. And then it's got
Somebody is with them.
well, honestly, it doesn't say say only use glyphosate. In fairness, it says you can smother weeds and stuff, but it does say, or we recommend you can use glyphosate. Come on.
Has that been in there for eons and nobody's taken it
I
out?
don't
type of
think
thing?
I've read it and realised the two paragraphs are a bit contradictory.
It
So you
happens.
pointed it out.
I did point it out.
Thank you very much indeed, Alison. Any questions? No? Okay. On we go then to the review of external communication and establishing a communication and engagement strategy, which I drew up alongside Gemma, and we got it to a second stage draft, which is the one that was in the documentation. I'm not going to ask people to accept it as it stands, on account of I suddenly realised that there's actually no reference in it to communication screens or notice boards, which it seems to me is something of an omission. So whilst I would very much welcome any comments or suggestions about amendments or how it stands at present, there will be a third iteration of it, which will include reference to the aforementioned.
You can, if you state what the amendments are, you
I
can.
don't know yet.
Oh, okay. In which case, if you're revising again, in which case it is just to know.
Yeah. I
pending
think
further
the
progress.
wording is actually quite important, really, rather than just the idea.
Especially what it says in it.
Sorry?
Especially given what it says in it.
So,
I was going to say that I thought it was very thorough, so that shows how you know it was missing some essential information.
God knows how I missed that, having banged on about communication space and notice boards, I don't know. But anyway, there you go.
So should I have seen that or not?
It was in the papers.
Yeah,
I've not looked at it then. I've only looked at the top thing and just turned up. Yeah, I'll
Yeah, it's quite long, it is quite.
It is, but
So I did want to say, I thought there was a lot of clarity in it.
Well,
I thought it was well written, which was great. The only thing is that I feel I need some training to be able to meet those things that you're asking us to
maybe
be able to
maybe
do.
that's one of the outcomes, the
Yes.
feedback is, okay, yeah, we think that's a good idea, or we think that's a good idea, but how the hell do we do it, type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Point well made, thank you. Can we make a note of that?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right, so to be further amended.
And I will
Technical training.
I will do the next iteration of it soon. Whatever that means. Yeah, certainly before the next meeting. Okay. Funding applications. We had there was a paper on this, wasn't there? Sorry. Clark provided a written report regarding update on grants.
Yes,
Do you
there
want
was
to
a paper
say-
in that.
Is that just to note?
That is just to note the progress that Jen has made working with the staff, particularly from Civic, around applying for grants to support energy efficiency in the building. I know they have put one in, or they're about to put one in, which is good news. I don't have it in front of me.
It's okay.
It's me again. Sorry.
Yeah, Jenny.
But I was thinking of this when Sean was speaking earlier about what she was saying about helping public buildings.
That's why I asked her about the Civic.
Yes, okay, so is Sean, is the liaison between the two, if that programme is going to be about how to ensure that they've got some expertise in that area, that we as a council, and Jen's exploring that, and the Civic Hall are exploring that, so I'm hoping there's some sharing of that expertise, and I'm asking if there is.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if they are in touch.
It
with
sounded like there wasn't, didn't it?
I thought it was,
You know,
Could be, but not.
yeah, yeah.
so who needs to be in touch with who?
I think we need to note that we would like Jen to discuss with the Civic trustees
and
Yeah, she does that already, but it's not,
It's
not
in
with,
relation
not
to
with HV cap.
HV
Yeah.
In relation to having a conversation with HV Cap,
Yeah.
with Sean
Yeah.
or whoever.
Well, the other sad thing that I was reading was that the
Audit they did on energy is time expired now, and that's what HB Cap paid for, way back when, and I just think, what a shame that you can't actually use that for your grant application for the next step. But they're asking, aren't they, to have another audit?
Yes. Yeah.
It seems a bit crackers to me. But if that's the rule, I suppose that's the rule,
I
isn't
think
it?
they do just go back to date.
Runs out sometimes, doesn't it?
But just that link
Yeah,
with
yeah,
HB
sure.
Cap, it just seems like a waste, a waste.
Which again is another reason for not letting things drag on too long, isn't it?
It is,
To have it
absolutely.
really, and get action in place as soon as possible after an audit, rather than
You
wait
have to act on it.
4 months for one committee meeting and 4 months for a full council, etc. You know, that you've got to be able to act on these things.
And it
And
costs
anything
the
else on
council
that?
£2,500.
Yes, exactly, yes.
So, point taken, yeah?
Yeah, just put an action to make the civic and the clerk aware of support available from HB Cap.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. And we've dealt with 46. And 47, Home Valley Review, lots of information really. Does everybody know that the Home Valley Review is being regenerated? Well, it is.
Great.
And I can circulate to you. It was a summary of it, of what they're intending to do. A sort of media release was put out via Home Valley Vision. I don't know how many people are on Home Valley Vision, but certainly their 1,000 members or whatever it is, not quite that many, have had it. But I can circulate that to council members so you can see what they're planning to do. The first edition, they said, I met with the two guys who were regenerating it, who did work on the original Home Valley Review, so we come with some history, shall we say. They were at pains to say their priority is not for this to be a money-making exercise, although it does need to cover its costs. They want it to be a community voice medium. And given the number of people that I'm sure we've all spoken to who said, oh, I really wish there was the Home Valley Review set. I think it's something that we need to be supporting, and certainly Jen has had some communication with them as well. I
They
think.
dropped in to see me at one point,
Yeah.
and dropped off some stuff. So they, I think what they would be quite keen for us to do is to have a regular article or feature or advert or whatever it is in that. I think there were some pricing in that sent out. So whether we want to commit to it now or think about it for the future.
And actually, the thing that I was just referring to, of course, is already in the papers. It's the HVO media pack. It's already in the papers. So I don't know why I'm saying I can send it out to you, because it's already there. Yeah.
Do we know what's its geographical coverage? Is it, because both photographs are out there, I think. Is it going to cover the whole valley, or is it
Says
maybe just
8,000
going to
copies.
cover?
Sorry?
Says 8,000 copies.
I think the intention from what they said was to cover the whole of the Home Valley. However, I would suspect that that's,
It could become first century.
yeah, well, it's one of those
Yeah,
things we'll see.
It's not
It's
intended to go
spread out.
It's distributed to local supermarkets in the
Sorry.
area.
Yeah, sorry, Don, that's one thing rude. Sorry. Yeah, but when it was going well, it was in Honley, various places, it did have good circulation. And people would volunteer to pick up a bundle and put it somewhere for people to pick up.
Mm.
I think it worked quite well.
Oh no, sorry.
Well, reading that, I think that sounds like the plan, because it says distributed to local supermarkets in the area and delivered to selected local businesses to raise awareness. So I would suspect it'll end up in Meltham, because it'll end up in Morrison's. So,
Possibly, possibly.
yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, you've got the co-op, haven't you? And you've got, I can't honestly see probably Aldi and Lidl taking them sometimes.
They might do, they do
Yeah.
have.
They have done before, yeah.
They do.
But so I would say it probably will cover. And if it's 8,000 copies, as it says here.
That's quite a bit, isn't it, really?
It'll be the, you know, the chippy and the little co-ops and all those things.
My mum and dad used it.
I certainly think it's something that we can use as one of our many communication vehicles and see how it goes, you know. We don't have to sign up for something ad infinitum, do we? Jenny?
Well, I think it is so much in line with what we're about, whatever, isn't it? I think what we're doing our communication job for us.
Yeah.
You know, so we must use it because I think it will reach many people that we've failed to reach out to. So getting stuff in about what the parish council is doing into this regularly, I think is really, really important. And they're having a big community celebration that sounds very glittering and wonderful, and I'm thinking, oh, is that going to put ours to shame? You know, because they might have a budget of more than 2,500 because it's going to be a glittering event. So you know, by all means, let them do
Well, watch
work
this
for
space,
us.
isn't it, I think. Is there any, sorry,
Can I just
Alison.
ask a question? How much do we pay for the tea toad?
That one is, it's around about 200 a month.
Yeah, 210, so it's about the same. If you're going from a whole page in Tito to half a page in this, I think it works out about £208 for half a page, so it's £2 cheaper basically. I suppose the annual, you know, you do the annual report, which you did. We used to publish it in the Home Valley Review, but if you're talking about 4 pages, you're talking about £1,600. It seems
Might not be
quite a lot.
necessary either.
Yes.
But you could do a summary,
Condense
you
it.
could do an executive summary.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Put a link on where to find it.
I mean, my view for what it's worth is that we're probably due once the Home Valley Review is up and running and we see what sort of impact it's having and how we judge that is another question. But to have a look at our print media, you know, input and whether it's actually worth us spending money on all the things that we do and whether it would be better to pare things down or not. But to have, at least to have some discussion about that, Julia.
We're planning on it being print only.
No.
So it's because the previous one was not online. Is this going to be online?
This is going to be online as well, yeah.
It was online.
Wasn't very.
Yeah, it wasn't their own page, it was on a...
Yeah, because they were run by a larger newspaper company that was based out of Barnsley.
Barnsley,
Yeah. So, but this sounds like it's a local entrepreneurial thing rather than a newspaper.
There's quite a detailed piece in the papers, yeah. Okay.
Did you want to think about signing up for the first issue now?
Yes.
Yes.
In which case, can we approve?
Yes.
Are we signing up beyond the first issue, or are we just putting it out?
I think we
Don't
should.
I'd be tempted to go for a 6-month run and just see how it goes. I mean, it
months.
works out cheaper anyway, doesn't
I
it? You
agree.
do double on.
Add to that making that forward commitment helps them establish.
Exactly,
as well,
yes,
doesn't
and
it?
we want it to succeed, so.
Yeah.
So, half a page?
Is it, what size is it, A5?
It's
So
A4.
A4.
So half a page would be the same size as we have for
A5.
Toto. A full page might be a bit too big, to be honest. See how
So
it
the
goes.
proposal is that we sign up for 6 months. You're proposing that, Douglas, second? Alison? All those in favour? Thank you very much for that.
A full page would be more cost effective, and I think that
It's filling a full page.
it's what,
It's filling it.
filling a full page.
I don't think you don't need to go further than you do so much.
Do the font twice as big.
We do really want to promote the parish council, don't we? And it's for 6 months it would be 2,000 for a full page, and that's only 750 more than half a page. So you've got more than double your impact. You know,
That's 4,000 a year that you're not currently budgeted for. And then next year would be reasonably easy because you can just say that's what you want. We do have some change. We know we've got some change. I might ask the money man down there as to
Stuff about.
Okay. Whatever, you know.
And then there's that Huddersfield pub thing that I sent through as well.
yeah, which is the
Sorry,
next
say
section.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm busy looking at the media pack or reviewing it.
I mean, the cost of the full page is not high. I mean, it's still within the budget that we used to have when it was in the OBO review before. I think it's filling it as a thing. So I know it does seem to come down to Gemma filling half a page, and sometimes she's you know.
I'd go half a page.
Okay.
Because the trouble with full pages are easy to skip over. If you're on half a page, it's editorial, you know, there's this kind of the different mix on the page.
Okay.
And then if you need to go bigger, go bigger.
I think we could maybe start with half a page.
And in actual fact, if that's ad rates, you know, is advertising what you want? It would be interesting to see, we kind of need to talk to them about what the format is. Because really a lot of your messaging is editorial message rather than an ad message. So, yeah, if they're doing something that's a kind of an advertorial format, where there might be some artworky type things and then editorial as well, but I'm not sure. It's the same as your Taito thing. Your Taito thing is not.
charge ad rates for that, even though it is it's editorial, really.
But I think it's kind of I'm not sure I would make a decision now. I think I'd have a conversation with them and say, how are we best representing ourselves in that publication?
So I think if we're fine with the resolution that we will take half a page, well, I will have a conversation with them about what that might look like and what the costs might be, rather than it being advert.
Because to be honest, they're also duty bound and need to, as part of their service to the community, which is what they're trying to do, put any PR, any press releases out that you do. You know, they would be not serving the community really if they didn't give you the free editorial to promote the big community event or whatever the consumer facing things were. So I wouldn't over egg the actual advertising, because that I think is quite a strange format for a parish council, and it's more pertinent to get all your press releases in and work the editorial side of it.
Yeah, and it is slightly different to the sort of Taitos of the world in that they are a booklet of adverts.
Yeah,
They're
and
not,
this is
a newspaper.
Yeah, so it needs to be treated. There's a weight between editorial and advertising, so I wouldn't dash into it. I think we need to have a look
Might
at
come
it.
in.
Yeah.
Have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So you'll have a conversation with them?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Don't know when that might be, but
I think in June. They said autumn. But we'll see.
Great.
Well, I think we've probably got some content for us, haven't we? Because apart from anything else, we've got the big event to advertise, haven't we? Okie dokie. Publicising the work of the Home Valley Parish Council. Assistant wants to report for them, anything?
These are just to note the things that we put out in Haybridge Breeze, in Taito and in Hepworth Focus over the last, since we met last, but also Julia's approached us about an idea to work with Huddersfield Pub. I don't know if you want to speak about it a little bit.
It's an interesting publication in inverted commas because it's all online. And it's all ex-Huddersfield Examiner journalists who really hated the Huddersfield Examiner and hate what Young July did to it. and hate all the ad formats because you can't read anything. And as far as so as far as they're concerned, you know, Neil Atkinson, who used to be the editor of Huddersfield Examiner, he works for them, and Sean Doyle, who does the photography locally, he works for them. So there's quite a lot of people in the Home Valley that are actually working for them because they hated the commercial side of Yorkshire Live. So Martin Shaw, whose business it is kind of in the same way that Home Valley Review are saying they don't want to serve the community, well, they have got an advertising rate media pack thing. You know, they don't want to become overly commercial, so they've got kind of they will be less commercial than Home Valley Review, but they'd have a bigger reach. So obviously you kind of got to be in the Home Valley Review because it's the Home Valley Parish Council, that's the kind of sine qua non. But Huddersfield Hub, I think, I've not met Martin, but I've dealt with, every year I deal with him he seems like a really, really good bloke.
He's a nice guy. I know.
Yeah.
Lives in Murfield, actually.
Yeah, he's a really, really good bloke with exactly the right kind of credentials for just supporting what's going on in communities. So I kind of think in terms of the broader, I don't think we want to be completely all the time Home Valley Review, Home Valley, self-immolation kind of thing. I think there should be a little bit of money set aside to go a bit broader. So Huddersfield Hub, you're not engaging with a big corporate machine like Huddersfield Examiner / Yorkshire Live. It's a kind of the acceptable face of online press in Kirklees.
I would also say, just to correct it as well, it's positive news.
It is positive news, yeah. It's
The Huddersfield Examiner is full of car-crashing
Yeah.
rubble.
Yeah,
They never come back to me.
you can't read it, the Examiner, the Yorkshire Live, but you can actually read the Huddersfield book.
Yeah.
So-
They go, well done you.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
So he seems alarmingly uninterested in making any money at all. But I mean, he seems very supportive of the Holly show. So I kind of said to him when I started with the Holly show, I might have a chat to the parish council because I actually think something like that covers Kirklees, he could be persuaded to do something for every parish council and possibly have a page for every parish council and then surface them in, because he does probably every fortnightly newsletter, so people sign up, they can get a fortnightly newsletter, so you could read the newsletter. They've got a huge social media following. It was 800,000 reach over 3 months, I think, on Facebook, which is really something. So they kind of, which was what he was saying in that email I forwarded to you. So I just think we need to kind of keep them in mind as part of the media strategy.
So is there something specific that you are suggesting that we should do?
No, because Martin sent that thing that explained what he was about only on Thursday or Friday, and I sent it to you. So if you let me, I'll just go and talk to him and say, what do you want to do with parish councils, Martin? And shall we make Home Valley Parish Council a test case? And I think it would be something like £150 a month or something.
So
or whatever.
So the proposal in the first instance is that we give you the authority to go and have a conversation on our behalf and see what the lay of the land is.
Yeah, because and then with a view to getting your point out to a broader audience.
I'm happy to propose that.
Yeah.
Seconder? Jenny? Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you very much.
I think, we put out content pretty regularly, so.
Can I just say, with regards to Huddersfield Hub, if you do put out online, if you tag them, they are really, really good at actually then putting it on there.
I think once we've got a relationship established, that would be a really great way.
Yeah,
Make it more
you
market
can
share.
contact them. I mean, they did loads of stuff on Broadcast for us. And that was just a case of we just tagged them. Every time we put out online, we tagged Huddersfield Hub. I mean, I know Sean was coming to do the photos anyway.
They're super supportive of community stuff.
Anything I run, police wise, I always tag Huddersfield Hub. It's very rare I tag Yorkshire Live. The they write what they want anyway, and to be honest, I mean, when you said to me, quote, I was quoted the other day in Yorkshire Live, I thought, that's good, you haven't even spoken to me. I know where you got the quote from, but you haven't actually rung me, at least, look at this man, it says, only alright if I print this.
Friendly press. Wow.
Good to know. Thank you very much indeed. Anything else on that particular item, publicising the work of the parish council?
Not specifically that, but I did sort of, it's related to the website. I still need help gathering photos and I've not had time to be going out on social media and things like that. Is there anybody who wants to kind of volunteer to help with gathering photos for the new website?
What background, you probably told us this already, what kind of photos do you want?
Anything home value related.
You can put me down to contact Mick Foster Jones
Thank you.
about pictures of robins
Mm.
Great.
and other creatures.
So he knows anything that like,
He does all sorts of stuff. So.
it's the,
I was going to say,
I've
don't
had
contact shop.
Yeah, I'm just going to say,
I've had loads of suggestions, but I've not had time to follow any of them up, and this is where I'm at. If there's anybody that can actually do the chasing and the getting, that would be so
Thank
helpful.
you. Hugh?
I was just going to, sorry, I was going to send you some photos.
Wonderful, thank
I've
you.
been meaning to send you some for ages.
So Hugh is going to send some photos.
A bit dated, but it was tied up. Walked up to Tickling Grace a bit, wow, every week. And I've got a year's worth of photos at the same spot on Tickling.
Great, thank you.
That sounds lovely. Julia?
I know you pay, because obviously for Holy Show, everyone thinks they can take the definitive picture of a tractor and they end up with like 600 pictures of tractors, everybody telling me their pictures are best. So how Sean Doyle is fabulous and he's very local and he's a professional photographer. I think if we said to Sean, Home Valley Parish Council website, can you pick 10 of your best that we can use, and we credited him, then he's doing the curation, he's choosing, if he hands
I've
them
got
over.
a list, it's long than that, and what I've not had time to do is
Yes, well,
contact
so, I
them.
mean, I'm happy to email Sean, or it sounds like
That would be
Donald
really
would email Sean, and
Thank
then
you.
we say, you tell us what you want, if you want classic shots of the Home Valley, or do you want shots of agriculture, or do you want
Everything.
You really do not want everything, because the last thing you want
Okay,
to
I
be...
want town, I want agriculture, I want countryside.
Okay, so I would say him and Sandy Nicholson, who is also a well-known local photographer because she sent to me.
Sorry, who?
Sandy Nicholson. Sandy Nicholson.
Okay.
So she does all this show photography, but she's also the main photographer for Holland Business Association. She's also the photographer for Holland Airport Square, and she basically does lots and lots of professional
So you're going to contact
So
them?
I'll contact Sandy as well. So I'll contact Sandy and I'll contact Sean and ask them to come up with, but you'll need to credit them. So as long as you credit them,
That I can do,
Yes.
easily.
So I'll do Mick Foster Jones, Andrew Sanderson and John T. Wilde.
Thank you.
Same applies to them as applies to anybody else we mentioned, commercial, they're business photographers. They've got some cracking stuff. So, and you don't ask, you don't get, do you?
No, I'd be happy to do it, I think. They do supporting local business people, rather than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank
Okay.
you very much, everybody.
Is that all right then?
Yes.
Lovely, thank you. So, 49, social media and website coverage. Do you want to say anything about the metrics?
Have we got there already? No, I don't have anything to say about the metrics in particular. They've been a bit up and down because we've been going through periods of pre-election sensitivity. I think there was a few there that did pretty well. Hopefully if we can get a relationship maybe going with Huddersfield Club, that will massively increase our reach by the sounds of it, so that'd be great. Interesting to see the analytics on the current website and where people go to. The sort of key places tend to be they want to see who the councillors are, who the councillor for their area is. Planning gets quite high hits as well, and I can't remember the other one that that does pretty well, grants and everything, yeah, so they will be things that we still need to keep in the forefront, I think.
Thank you very much. Okay, number 50 is budget, and I think Rich is going to talk to us about that.
Yep. So yeah, the expenditure against the budget this year, you've got a spreadsheet for that. You know, you've still got quite a lot of money that you can spend both in your budget lines and in your earmark reserves. So you know, there is a potential there for, you know, potentially spending a bit more on some of these projects, potentially, like for example the you know, the publicity side of things with the Home Value Review. If you did decide to go to a page, there is money there really. So in terms of expenditure this year, in terms of the communications and engagement budget line, you've so far spent about 2,500. You've still got 12,500 or so left. In terms of the climate action pot, you started with 5,000. Although you spent £868, 767 came from an earmark reserve, so you've still got 4,900 left. So you've still got quite a big chunk in that as well. Your earmark reserves have all stayed the same since the start of the year, apart from the climate action projects one, which obviously I've been spending money for stuff to do with the solar panels from the earmark reserve, because the earmark reserve was set aside, you know, principally to do that. So that's been going down a little. The rest have all pretty much stayed the same, apart from the community engagement pot, which got an extra 1,000 at some point. What was that about? I think it was to do with the Honley show. Yeah, that came from general reserves. There was an extra 1,000 quid put in from general reserves.
That was for sponsoring the programme.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. In terms of the budget for next year, I suppose a few things need saying. I mean, one of the big things in the sort of bigger position of the Parish Council, obviously, is we've kind of committed to spend 40,000 every year to the civic. That's a big chunk. That's a big addition on what we've been spending so far. That's £4 on the household charge. So, you know, I suppose I'm saying to be a little cautious if you've got, you know, extreme plans to expand your remit. Just bear that in mind, that we've got to find this 40,000 somewhere without upsetting the electorate too much, I suppose, in terms of an inflated bill that they're getting.
Can I make a suggestion, or ask a question really rather? Would it be helpful for the case to devolve to climate action and community engagement the task of saying what they think we're going to need next year, and bring that to the meeting on the 25th of November?
Yeah, I mean, having the action plan is a really good starting point. Not only is it useful in terms of mapping out what you're trying to do this year, it is trying to be a multi-year plan, which, you know, is much further on than some of the other committees are. So I think if you can start costing that out, that would be very helpful. The only, and I know this, you know, I'm going to go against what we did this year now, but I think the work that myself and Councillor Colling and Councillor Wilson did on the work on the financial regulations meant that it's probably likely that we would advise you to move away from this 2 budget line thing and have to have actual projects. I know you don't like that.
Is it not possible to do exactly the opposite and say we'll just have one?
The trouble is that the recommendation that's going to come from the working group, there's a recommendation about rolling money over from unfinished projects. You can roll unspent money over from unfinished projects, but you can't roll other money. And at the moment, we've not got projects kind of defined really. You've got these kind of, you know, these budget lines that that are kind of not specifically outlining what part of that budget line relates to what. And I think it would be easier if they were separated out. On the other side of this, to make things easier for you, I think that working group is trying to rationalise the financial processes that gives the committees more control. Now, the danger of this is you create more opportunity for fraud. So this is where you've got to balance stuff up. Is whether you're putting the parish council at risk from, you know, councillors, officers, theft. Yes. Well, it's a thing, isn't it? We can't ignore it. You know, this is part of what the council's got to do. We've got to make sure that the public money is protected. Anyway, I mean, what the group is going to sort of suggest as possible ways of easing things is, for example, raising the amount that the committee can spend from £5,000 to £10,000. Having control of your own earmark reserves up to the value of £10,000. At the moment, that just goes to council. Council makes decisions about earmark reserves, so that would come to the committees themselves. The third one, which you probably don't entirely know, it's a bit strange that to get approval for the payment of actual money, you generally have to go to council or finance. However, in the new model financial regs, this is coming from now. It's not something we've written, but it was an option. The clerk and the RFO can approve payments of money up to £500. So that means that having to wait for a committee, not just a committee, having to wait for finance or the council to say, can we spend 30 quid on, not spend, can we pay 30 quid for this? That's now gone. The clerk can just say, as long as there's a budget line, I'm going to authorise that payment and then I can pay it. So that gives a lot more freedom. This is the trade-off between putting the budget lines back on, which I know you don't like, but I do think overall, I think these other things that are going to be suggested might make things easier and you'll have more control and it'll make things faster, I hope. So yes, if you could go down that route with the case group and with a climate action group and with a communications group, work out what your projects are for the year ahead, and indeed for the 3 years ahead if you want, or 2 years ahead if you want. Just cost it out, and that would be very, very helpful. Yes.
Okay. That's the proposed. I'm proposing then that we devolve the drawing up of the draft budget plans and around projects to the climate action working group and the communication and engagement group to come back with proposals to the meeting on the 25th of November. Anybody want to second that? Thank you, Mary. All those in favour? Thank you. And we will be able to consult with you, Rich, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Necessarily. Yeah, thank you very much indeed for that.
And I don't want to put you off. If you've got something you really want to do, when I was talking about the 40,000 for the Civic, I don't want you to pull it off something that you really want to do. I was just really making the point that generally we have to be thinking about that £40,000 we've got to find from somewhere.
Sure. Okay. Anything else? Any questions for Rich? Or? Thank you very much indeed for that. It's really helpful. So, on we go to correspondence. We've got 2 items around requests for people to give feedback or be involved in surveys. One from Yorkshire Water and the other one from the Peak District National Park, which was the next item. As far as the Yorkshire Water is concerned, has anybody managed to have a look at this? I did. It's actually quite interesting. But what it made me think, because it tells you what Yorkshire Water have devolved this work to an organisation called Fountains Forestry to look at ways in which they're going to plant and fell. I'm remembering this correctly, aren't I?
The other way around.
And then there's lovely little diagrams of where they're doing it around Digley or Yeaton or whatever, and all these colour-coded pieces down which are saying what type of thing, you know, is going to be planted or, and I'm like, I don't have the expertise for this. So I wondered whether we might consult some experts and say, would you like to have a look at this and see whether you would like to do a response rather than us or on our behalf or something?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what trees need to be planted or cut down.
It's a little bit, sorry, it's a
Yeah.
little bit vague, isn't it? We are
Yeah.
thinning the trees.
Yeah.
And then on another agenda, they call it harvesting.
Yeah.
And you think, no, this is Yorkshire Water. You know, what do they mean by that? What are they going to do when they chop them down? Are they going to dispose of them properly? Are they?
So I just wondered whether
Yeah.
Riverhome Connections
Yeah.
or HVCAP, or there's an arborist who is based on Holt Lane called Totally Trees, who might be able to offer. Anyway, Alison.
Yeah, no, I think it's White Rose Forest, which, and the agent for White Rose Forest are Riverhome Connections. So I think they should be. They've got an expert in their rounds.
There you go then.
They probably
Sorry.
Well, I wondered
Mary?
if it was just a survey that everybody was being asked to.
That was my question, is it a public consultation?
Yes.
And that's because if we want to
Yeah, we, so this
submit
comes
a
up,
response.
this comes up quite a lot in planning. We get lots of public consultations that come to planning. Generally, the sort of three options are everybody fills in their own if they want to, or a group get together and do a consolidated response, or you don't. So those are sort of the three options. Yeah, they could potentially, of course, be that fourth option, just to send it out to the groups that you know have an interest in this area and say, have you seen this?
That would be my response. You know, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We don't have the expertise. I don't need to say this to them, that the decision we make to be
Is that what it is?
handed
Is it?
over to.
It's a public consultation that we've been sent out as a statutory
Yeah.
consultation. Okay, in that case, yeah, you're not obliged to. It's only if you want to.
But I think it would be good for us to pass it on to HVCAP. Would it? Or should we just leave it alone?
I think.
Mary? Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say, I mean, we do, as Gemma's just said, we do get lots of requests for consultation to planning committee, and in principle, we try and reply when we can, but there's no point in trying to reply to something when you haven't got the knowledge.
No, exactly.
And I can't see any harm in sending it out, but obviously nobody else can reply on our behalf. I mean, I think we just reply and say thank you for being asked, but we don't feel you have the expertise. But by all means, I think pass it on to organisations that do have the expertise or may have the expertise.
So I can forward to
HVCAP.
Riverhome Connections, HVCAP.
Those two will do, won't they? Anybody got any other suggestions? Okay. Thank you. And the next one, does the same thing apply then to the Peak District National Plan Stakeholder Climate Change Survey?
I think so, and it does specifically say, please can you forward this survey invitation to any relevant contacts. So I think that's exactly what we do. I mean, whether I'm afraid I haven't looked at it, but you know, whether it's something we can look at, a small group of us could look at, I don't know. Everybody looked.
I think it comes back to the same thing, it's expertise. I mean, looking through the previous one about the Yorkshire Water, I see proposals to plant lots of Sitka spruce up at Dunford Mill, you know, by Windscarp.
Yes.
And you think, and start looking into that. And then Sitka spruce, it's a common valuable timber to plant for produce, but it says in the Woodland Trust Act, and it's also good for harbouring mammals and birds, and you think, well, is it a good thing or a bad thing? You know, at the end of the day, you know, is it good for commercial woodland or is it good for wildlife? You do, I thought, well, there isn't an easy way to answer these things.
Maybe the Peak District one is something which could leave individual councillors to respond to, because yeah, we certainly probably have very strong feelings about it.
Has anybody else got any thoughts on this one?
Don't we have a Peak District rep? Or wasn't there somebody within the council?
Councillor Greaves does.
Councillor Greaves is the Peak District.
On the Kirklees Council.
On Kirklees.
Oh, yeah, no, on the Peak District
Park,
National
yeah.
Park, it's me.
It's you?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's up to you then. It's up to you whether you want to do it or whether you want to delegate it.
You think it's up to me to do it on our behalf? I don't think so. Nice suggestion, but thanks.
You're our representative, so I'm sort of saying, what do you think?
What I think is, I would suggest that we send it on to Home Valley, Home Village Residents Association, seeing as how they are bang on the edge there, to post it on Home Valley Parish Council and say, is anybody interested in this? Send it to HVCAT and send it to River Home Connections. Those were the 4 suggestions that sprung to mind for
I can't
me.
see that there's anything in Home Village anyway. It seems to be all Yate Home.
No, that's the Orchard Woods one.
Right, sorry.
There's nothing to stop any of us responding to it as individuals
No.
if we so wish.
So I was going to say, as long as you know what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going for it. I'm really keen to know what's wrong with it.
This is a lockdown. Anything else on
I
those?
would like to say that the Peak District have got officers who know about climate change, just get on with it. Stop consulting people who are That's exactly. No, I would not be told.
No, I wouldn't.
You know, certainly do it. Yeah.
Anything else on those 2 then? Consultations. Okay, and last but by no means least, items for publicity. Has anybody got anything that they want to draw to our attention and Gemma to report on?
This week we will be putting out messages about the food festival and our presence and our working with ethics this weekend, and then from next week onwards, once we've met on the 18th, I will be putting more and more information out about the thing on the 9th. Plus there's a few other bits in here. I've got a new story about a speed device and Hornby High School that I need to get on. I know it's there.
That's quicker though than the first one, wasn't it?
A lot quicker.
That
Still
might
haven't
be
been invoiced for either of them.
Might be something to do with you writing and saying, and how long's this one going to take? Because I'm not
It was
willing to
much
wait.
faster, much faster. So it is now outside Hornby High School. We are delighted about it. There's a few other bits and bats as well, one of which I can.
Obviously, it's grant season coming up, so that's.
Grants, yeah, when the grants get awarded. So we've had lots of grant publicity. Now we're about to give out lots of grants.
So there's loads, but I think
There were loads. I've got 4 pages.
if you don't have time to write it.
Just to put an aside on the grants thing, Richard has kindly sent out all of the, we've got the full list now, haven't we? So all councillors have got the opportunity to have a look at.
Well, it's not. It's that committee. It's
Yeah.
not all councillors.
But then, have all councillors not seen the list?
No.
I have.
The councillors, the only councillors who vote are the
Well, yes, I
councillors in
know,
finance.
I know they're the only ones who vote, but doesn't everybody see them?
I haven't done, no.
I think
Can you tell me
personally, I think
all apply?
Yeah.
Right, that's allowable to know, because I told
Yeah.
them so.
I think so.
Yeah,
sorry, what was that?
At Brockles Village Trust
Yeah.
applied, I
Yeah.
told them to.
Yeah, them and the bowling club.
Personally, I think it would be a good thing for all councillors to see who is applying for grants from the parish council. I also think it would be quite useful for case committee members to have a look and do that. Where in these are things to do with climate action,
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
if you've got the time and inclination.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few applications for solar panels for sports clubs. That seems to be a thing that we're getting more regularly now. There's been a few in the last couple of years, and I think we've got 2 this time.
Okay. So is it okay to ask to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with a view to having a look to see what the climate action connection is, for want of a better description.
Are you wanting me to just send the list rather than the actual applications?
Well, there's not much point in sending the list unless you know what the application is about.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem.
Jenny?
And do you want people who to give comments on all these applications because they won't be attending the meeting when the decisions are made?
Well, if people on here want to do this activity, and it's by no means compulsory, is it? And
So you
because
can
I'll be making
invite
it in,
comments.
but you can send them to me because I'm on that committee and I will be forwarding comments even though I can't hold the meeting to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
what
I think that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously put, you know, if you've got written comment, if people who aren't on the committee have got written comments, I mean, I can share that as a document.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything
That
else?
is the last item.
Thank you very much indeed.
Perfect time.
Please minute, Gemma. Thank you so much yet again for all your work on this mammoth task. Because it is a mammoth task. And thank you everybody for all your contributions as well. Much appreciated.